Well, good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us here this morning. This morning, I want to speak about something, one of the core items of our agenda here and our plan here for the American people, and that's about housing affordability. And it's one of the most pressing challenges facing working families across our country, and that's the rising cost of housing. Also, the rising cost of fuel, which seems to be coming down a little bit. I wouldn't say we're past that crisis yet, but I believe we're making progress. But, really, for too many Americans, especially young families, the and first-time buyers in suburban communities, the dream of owning a home feels increasingly out of reach. Corporate investors buying up single-family homes in bulk, outdated regulations that drive up construction cost, and supply shortages that have all contributed to this crisis. Bottom line is, I'm not trying to impose uh, a regulation that says that that you're banned from selling your home. But what I want to see is I want to see these corporations uh, regulated. And when I say that, I want to see where these corporations uh, have to go through the proper paperwork. They can't just buy homes in bulk and flip them into Airbnbs or short-term rentals. That's the problem. Back in my hometown, we had a situation this weekend, and actually back in Dallas, we had a situation this weekend with such a home that I don't know if it was a home that was flipped like this, but it was an Airbnb, and they had some violence there this weekend. What I want to see is I want to see our young Americans. I want to see them being able to buy homes. To me, and probably to everyone across the nation, that's probably one of the the best things a young family can do. I remember when Andre and I we were married for 2 years, and we bought our first home in DeSoto. We're still in there, we're still in there, and it was a great joy. We went to the title company and signed the paperwork, getting that house, and so it's there's no better feeling. And I think what's happening, what's bad is the fact that for whatever reason, and I don't know what the situation is, some of these families are falling on hard times and are forced to sell their homes very quickly. So what's happening is these corporations are coming in and throwing money at them, buying the homes, then neglecting the homes. What I want to see as far as regulations for corporations, I want to see increased regulation. And I want to see it that where if a corporation buys homes, you're looking at a lot of paperwork. Where the closing of a home typically takes 30 to 60 days, I want to see increased regulation, increase enforcement of code and codes, and make it such that closing of homes for corporations take between 90 and 120 days. I think if we increase the regulation on these corporations, that will slow down what's happening in this country. And under my administration, we we're taking actions on cracking down on large corporations and investors who buy up neighborhoods and drive up prices for everyday Americans. In this situation, nobody wins. When a company comes in and buys your neighbor's house for whatever money they throw at, you're hurt. When you want to put your property up for sale, the appraised value of the home next to you may be higher than yours. You're hurt. You're hurt. And one of the things that we're going to do while increasing regulations for these corporations is we're also cutting unnecessary red tape that slows down new construction while protecting community character. So what we're going to do is preserve preserve the neighborhoods, preserve the city, but also make it to where it's easier for new home construction to happen. And one of the things that we're doing here in my administration is we're expanding in incentives and support for first-time home buyers, particularly in suburban areas, much like my hometown, that have been overlooked too long. And the biggest solid thing right here that supports this home buying is infrastructure. And this administration is 100% committed to investing in infrastructure, roads, schools, and resilient communities that supports more housing where families actually want to live. Think about a statistic here. Back in my hometown, we are probably, if I remember the numbers right, and I'm sure somebody will correct me on that, but it's going to say I think we're 96% uh, of our land is used. There are that 4% of our community that's not being used. If you're that corporation and you want to buy a home, by all means, buy a home. Invest in the city. Don't come into the city, take advantage of the residents, and then flip it. Or that same 4% could also be rezoned and bring new infrastructure, new economies to our city. One of the things we're lacking in my hometown is the lack of really set down restaurants. Sure, we have fast food restaurants and McDonald's and all the other restaurants, but where is a good set down restaurant? One of the problems we face every Sunday after church, we want to go out. Sometimes we go out with our pastor and his family. Where do we go eat? A lot of times it's outside of our own community. Now, who loses in that? It is the community where you live. You're going over to another community, oftentimes a neighboring community 4 or 5 miles away, that benefits from you spending money in their city. So, this whole thing that we're talking about, and we'll continue talking about, is part of our family's first agenda. We believe that every American who works and should have a real shot at the American dream. To me, the American dream is not just words. It's not just something that my folks had. It's not that they instilled on me. It's something that we need to instill upon the next generation. This set of young Americans who are going out to buying their first home, and then that they should reinstill that on the next generation. This should be paying it forward, passing it forward. And that's one thing. This administration will continue fighting for the everyday American, for all Americans, but particularly um, the low and middle income Americans who really need help. And I think this housing affordability situation that we'll continue to talk about, this is not going to go away, that we'll continue to talk about, is something that I think will help many communities. But thank you guys very much. Thank you. Thank you.